The plot thickens. There's a cap down here. It had a lot of its outer coating of wax flaking off. I figured I'd take a closer look at it. I clipped it out, and lo and behold, it is a Chicago Condenser Corporation capacitor. But the wiring sure appears to be all original. And it looks like there's another one up here. And perhaps that as well. Why is that puzzling? Well, the high voltage caps that I like so much that sure appear to be replacements are Chicago Condenser Corporation. This appears to be original. So what are the odds that at some point this set needed repairs and they happened to use the same type of cap that was used when it was originally made? I'm not saying it's impossible. Heck, maybe it was still under warranty. Or maybe what I'm assuming are repairs was something done back at the factory. Seems unlikely. They were pretty ugly J-hooks, the way these caps were installed. So what gives? Are these somehow the original? I mean, hey, maybe there was a problem in the production and they pulled these and replaced them before it was even ever sold. Or maybe we're still under warranty and they brought it back and they replaced it with the original parts that were used. Or is it just a coincidence? I've never heard of this company before. I've never seen these caps before. This company still is in business, amazingly, making like specialty government contract high voltage caps and such. Still in the Chicago area. I don't know. But I will keep on keeping on. So this is a 0.1 microfarad. Down here, I think it's the vertical circuit. I figured not having too much luck with the audio, so I'll try to tame the vertical oscillator because the noise in the audio seems to be tied into the vertical circuitry. Down here we have the horizontal and vertical deflection amps. Top is the horizontal, this is vertical. They both use a pair of 12 SN7s. Some of you may have noticed this rather odd-looking ceramic trimmer capacitor just floating out in space. That is the horizontal linearity adjustment. Yes, that is factory. That's supposed to be there. It's supposed to be that way. I presume it was set at the factory and it's not supposed to be messed with afterwards. They just tacked it across a couple pins on a tube socket. Likewise, this is also factory. They bodged together a couple 100 ohm resistors. That's actually the filament dropper for one of the series strings. That's the other one. That sucker gets really hot. They got it mounted on a chassis with metal going through it for some air cooling. This one doesn't get quite so hot. They needed 50 ohms, so they put two 100 ohm resistors in parallel to get the right value and get the wattage rating up as well. I replaced 3 paper caps down on the vertical circuit and one super crusty one up here on the video output. Probably because I want to see the labels on them. I finished replacing 3 paper caps in the vertical circuit and one up in the video output. That one looked especially crusty. That was this guy, so I wanted to get it out of there. I also want to see the labels on these. So these are not the Chicago Condenser Corporation. These are the Industrial Condenser Corporation of Chicago. And they even give the address on here. I'll have to look that up. 3245 to 65 North California Avenue. It's not too far away from where we're at right now. Alright, I figure that's enough. Let's do another power up. It's tempting to just blow through these all, and I've done it before and I've had pretty good luck, but this set is new ground to me. I haven't worked on anything quite like it, and I don't want to screw it up. So let us give it a try. I'm always checking that current draw. These are the two filter caps I really need to get out of there. One of them is insulated from the chassis. That's part of the doubler and tripler. They're hard to get at though. They're behind this filter choke and the selenium. Those I definitely want to recap from the top. I placed an order with Mauser Electronics yesterday. We'll see. I think they're supposed to have the stuff here by Christmas Eve. Wow, our raster got a whole heck of a lot bigger. Noise is annoying as ever. See if this is focus. Sorry for the crazy camera angles. I got this set on its side and I'm holding my camera with the other hand. So there's something up with the resistors, I think, or the deflection circuitry, even though I replaced the caps. This is the vertical centering control. I can move it up, I can't move it down any further than that. It should be able to go down off the bottom of the screen, and it doesn't. And this is horizontal positioning, which is really funky because it's actually going diagonally. And see all this waviness? That means we've got some 60 hertz ripple going through this set. Alright, that's width. That works very nicely. Let's narrow it down. That's height. Alright. So we definitely have full deflection. I don't know what's up with that horizontal centering. That is really screwed up. And vertical. Oh, that's a pity because that's a little bit tricky. Alright, that's about enough of that. Let me get the lights back on. The centering and focus control are on this phenolic insulated board here with a bunch of resistors on it. Our plastic shafts going to the three controls. That's focus. That's working pretty much. These two are acting strangely. The vertical only really moves it up, it won't move it down off the bottom, and horizontal is just doing really strange stuff. Could be the resistors have gone funky. I recall when I did my Hallicrafters, I just had to take this board out and just go through everything. That had a very similar setup on it. Also notice there is a conspicuous capacitor here, and since the others were all so bad, before we do anything else, let's replace that and see what difference it makes. I was not expecting to see a cap down in there. Normally it's just a bunch of resistors. Must be that 0.05, which goes from the center wiper of the horizontal centering to some other stuff, some biasing. Yeah, have some fun figuring that out. Get out your calculators and remember your Ohm's law and try to figure that mess out. These circuits are always convoluted. This is more convoluted than usual. The gist of it is we've got our high voltage out from that box inside the dashed lines, and then it goes through a bunch of resistors to provide DC offsets for the deflection plates and a variable DC level for the focus via these 3 pots. And all those resistors are there to scale the voltages to the proper range. I replaced that one capacitor, and I also hooked up a signal source. Who knows, maybe if I provide a strong direct signal, we'll actually pick a little something up. That's just an over-the-air ATSC to NTSC RF converter box going straight to the antenna terminals. So let's see if those centering controls behave any differently. Not really. Yeah, horizontal deflection kind of works better now. Okay, so let's see. Change it on extreme. All the way up. Oh, there is something. Let's see. I don't know what I'm picking up though, because if it's my converter box, there's no moving image. There's just there's something there. Let's see. No, it's not my converter box. I'm changing the channels on it and it's not doing anything. And I'll just turn it off. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Look at a channel plate on this thing. Make sure maybe the numbers go backwards. They do. Oh, this time I've been going the wrong way. Channel, it goes counterclockwise. Channel 2 is at the far right. So it's 2, 3, 4. There is reception. Son of a gun. I just assumed that the channel control was going clockwise all this time. Okay, it's Perry Mason. Alright. And we can even get a hold. Well, how about that? Obviously the sound is non-existent, but that's actually a pretty respectable picture. Why no sound? I'll be... That sound has got to be something real basic. I mean, the volume, it doesn't respond to the volume control. It's just a persistent, well, you can hear it. And we're in a room that's got moderate lighting. That's actually, the CRT's pretty bright as these things go. Alright, I'm feeling a whole lot better now. Let's really focus in on that sound now. So the power supply, regardless if there's still some of the old crusty caps in there, is working well enough that the side is functioning. So the set is basically working, and it's a shame I didn't realize the channel changer situation sooner, because it may have been working to some extent from the very beginning. Oh well. Now, because it's working quite well, we can assume a lot of circuits are working right, including the power supply, because we have full screen deflection, linearity is good, brightness, contrast are decent. Really certainly the only major issue right now is no sound and a horrible buzz instead of sound, so let's just focus on that. Well, my first thought was, oh, well, maybe there's hum in the part of the power supply that powers the audio. The problem with that, though, is that runs off the main B+, or, well, a branch of it, and that's really well filtered. So it looks like what they do is the B+ that goes to most of the set, by B+, I'm talking about plus 120 volt, 2 big filter caps and a filter choke going off that way. And from this side of it, they pick off a resistor and put another filter cap. And it goes over to the audio, an output transformer, a resistor, and yet another filter cap. So it seems unlikely that hum would be getting through that to that extent with all those filter caps in place and new fresh good caps in there. So my next thought is that it's self-oscillating, either the 6AT6 or the 25L6. So how can we check that? Well, if I got a scope on there, we could. Something else we can do is, the audio is coupled between sort of the preamp and the final amp by this 0.01 microfarad cap. And somewhere over here is the volume control. We can try grounding both this grid and that grid. And if doing that on either one of them makes the speaker quiet, we can kind of narrow down the possibilities. So for example, if we ground this and it still makes the buzz, we know the problem is down here. And if we ground this and the problem goes away, we know it's isolated to that part of the circuit. The pin numbers on this schematic, but I think they're on the SAMs. Yeah, so let's try grounding pin 5 on the 25L6 and see what happens. I can also try touching the center wiper of the volume control, but the buzz is so loud I think that's going to drown out any signal that I might try injecting. And then there's still the very curious fact that the buzzing varies with the vertical settings, even though they're two separate circuits. And now suddenly we've lost vertical deflection. Well, that's annoying. I'll try tweaking some of the controls back here. Width. What the heck? Oh, there it goes. Alright, so back to our original plan. Okay, 25L6 way down here. There's pin 5. Yeah, it does react to me touching it. Well, that's good. Aha! Good. So we know that that tube is not the problem. The problem is downstream. Let's go to the grid of the tube before it, which is 686. Ground pin 1 on that. That is a tube directly above it, and pin 1 is right here. Wow. Just getting near that's picking up a lot of noise. Alright, that explains a lot. That is a very sensitive high impedance input point. It's clearly just picking up noise from radiating all over this set. So I don't think anything is self-oscillating. It's picking up the noise from the oscillators, which are right over here. Was that tube supposed to be shielded? No. Alright, maybe the resistor on that grid has gone open or something. Well, it's pretty high impedance. The only thing on that is a 10 meg to ground, and then this cap. Well, I'll check that resistor, I'll replace that cap, and let's see what happens. Now that's the cap right here. Now if it just goes to the wiper on the volume control. I can't see how that cap being bad would really cause a problem though. If it was leaky, so what? Some signal will be getting through. Why would it be picking up all the radiation from the surrounding set? And if it was open, which doesn't seem likely, yeah, my best guess is that there's something up with this resistor, or it's a bad tube. That doesn't seem likely either, though. Well, it's simple enough to check the resistor, so 10 ground, 10 1, 10.8 meg. Alright, that seems okay. Well, we'll have to check this resistor. Capacitor. No reception anymore. Boy, this set is finicky. Here's what I'm looking at, so I'm trying to get back to where I get some reception. So a little bit of that noise is coming through, but now it does vary with the volume control. 2, 3, 4. Where's my signal? Am I not getting anything? Contrast, tuning. It seems unlikely that by me changing one cap on the volume control that we would have lost reception. I just wiggled the local oscillator tube to 6C4, and we have sound. How about that? I'm curious. I am no expert on audio amps, but how would... Well, we'll check that cap on the cap tester. But how would a leaky cap between the center wiper on the volume control and the grid cause horrific noise or it to pick up noise like a super microphone? So this is the cap we're talking about. There's the volume control, and there's the grid of the 6AT6. So that's the cap that got replaced. So on one side we got a cap going to ground, that's feeding in the audio signal to one leg, and the other side is grounded. So if that cap was leaky, there's no DC voltage on either side. One side is ground, and the other side has a cap on it. Unless that cap is leaky as well. In this case, yeah, some voltage could be leaking down all the way over to the grid. And what would that do? Well, if this grid, which is super high impedance, got some positive voltage finding its way over here, it's really going to throw the bias off. Well. Now we don't seem to not have sound again. Or it's there, but it's very faint and garbled. I'll let this set cool down and power it up again. Maybe there's a number of factors at play here. I've got the capacitor up on my bridge now. Check for leakage. Okay, there's a little leakage at 400 volts. It should be good for 600, but there's nowhere near that much voltage on this in this circuit. There's not even probably going to be 100 volts across it. I don't think that's an issue. Let's try to check the capacitance. So it should be 0.0025, 0.01, it should be somewhere around here, and nothing. There's no deflection on the eye tube at all. I'll grab a new cap and see how that checks in comparison. I've got the capacitor on my bridge. Let's check for... I have the capacitor hooked up to my bridge. Let's check for leakage. I have the cap hooked up to my tester. Let's check for leakage first. Okay, a minor amount of leakage on a 300 volt scale. There's nowhere near that much voltage across this capacitor where it's used in the circuit. There's probably not even 100 volts. Well, it is leaky. Not very, but it is. Okay, so there is some leakage. Let's see if we can check the capacitance. Let's see, C3 range. It should be 0.002. So somewhere down around there. Maybe the C2 range is more appropriate. 0.001, so it would be somewhere around in here. And nothing. No eye deflection whatsoever. Let's hook up a new cap and see how it checks out. It's a 0.0022, just like the one I installed to replace that paper cap. And bam! Yeah, that has a very distinct eye opening. So I think there is a modest amount of leakage, even at the very small test voltage this uses on the capacitance range, such that it's no longer functioning as a proper capacitor. Okay, but after playing for a couple minutes, the sound really significantly diminished. So we still have a bunch of paper caps in there. They all look like hell, so what I suspect is happening is we've got other caps that are leaky. And as the set warms up, it's causing problems. And that's the thing. It's fun to troubleshoot, to methodically go through stuff, but when sets are this old and every single cap is bad, it can get really frustrating because the circuits interact to some extent, and You're not going to get away with just changing one component. There's sound, but it's faint. I keep changing the channels because I'm thinking there are might be dirty contacts on the tuner. I'll try the other channel on my converter box. So we're getting sound when I'm tuned way off the video, so the alignment could be horribly off. Yeah, I can't even get the station in very well. I think our high voltage circuit isn't working so well either because the picture's not as bright as it was and it's not looking so hot anymore. Yeah, I think the alignment's way off, which is odd because it's the Addams family. So there's two distinct ways to do TV sound and video back in this era. One is with split carrier. Right after the tuner, there would be a separate IF for audio and a separate IF for video. This uses the same IF for audio and video. And the output of the video amp gets picked off and goes to the sound. With this setup, you can't really have a bad picture and good audio or vice versa because they share a common IF. So that's weird. Unless this 4.5 megahertz trap is really off. So I shouldn't say it's not possible. It's just less likely that they would get out of whack. Which is somewhere in the set. I'll have to track that down. Alright, I think that's what's happening. But before I dive into trying to do an alignment, let's take care of all the other problems first. So all the major problems seem to have been resolved, but there are plenty of minor issues. The picture's not as bright as sharp as it was a little while ago. We still have some home. There's some, the picture's a little wavy. Basically nothing works cleanly and sharply. The controls are a little goofy, especially the horizontal and vertical centering and the focus control. I'll probably have to take that whole board out and clean it and replace some of the resistors maybe. What I'm getting at is I think it's time, now that all the major circuitry is working, to just blow through and finish replacing the rest of the caps before I keep troubleshooting, because I know they're all bad. And every time I replace them, things seem to be getting better. So we will resume when all the paper caps have been replaced.